July. There's some handwritten letters from home. There's some sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, white, and blue, lay down, he's alive. Mr. Red, white, and blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop. And his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, white, and blue, lay down, he's alive. Mr. Red, white, and blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, white, and blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, white, and blue, pay the ultimate price. Oh. He was the man of the house when he was born. His family is proud but torn. But if you knew him, you would understand. He was raised on how to be brave, just to see the flag still wave. And then he came home with all he wanted. He's Mr. Red, white, and blue. Lay down, he's alive. Mr. Red, white, and blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, white, and blue, stand on these red lines. Mr. Red, white, and blue, can pay the ultimate price. Mr. Red, white, and blue, lay down, is alive. Mr. Red, white, and blue, for these stars and stripes. March in line, march in line. Hey, hey.
What is good? What is good? How's everyone doing this morning? Hope everyone is having an absolutely splendid day. So, question of the day. How do we keep that man safe? Third attempt on his life. It's crazy. It's crazy the rhetoric that the left is pushing to cause all of this too. They keep calling the violence. And it's sickening. But question though, how do we keep him safe? Because we know left ain't gonna stop. Oh, that looks interesting. Let's check that out.
Whoa.
How cool I think Donald Trump is. We were there in Detroit at Ford Field. It was WrestleMania, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was, when they gathered up the two teams, and Vince had a team and Donald Trump had a team. And those two teams are going to wrestle each other. I was a special referee. And whoever's team lost was going to get his head shaved. Okay, well, you know the gig here.
Yeah.
Donald Trump ain't getting his hair shaved. He's got that comb over thing, and it's going to be a long time. If he gets that shit shaved off, it's going to be a long time before it grows back.
Right.
And so you know Vince is on the hook. So anyway, we do the deal. And the thing about the match was, Teddy, we're at Ford Field, and that Ford Field seats about 90,000 people. It's gigantic. It's a huge indoor stadium. But what happens when you're in a 20 by 20 ring there, and the crowd's a little far back, the sound doesn't really travel to the ring. It just kind of escapes up into no man's land, and you can't hear it. So we were out there working, and I was calling the match, but I'm listening to the crowd because I know if we need to shift gears, we need to do something else. But the bottom dropped out of that because we couldn't hear shit. And we're all in there, and I'm kind of giving Vince a gimmick look, and he's looking at me. We thought we lost the people. Well, when you watch it back on pay-per-view, I mean, the people were with everything that was going on. We just couldn't hear it.
Right.
So now what they do when they're working in a big arena like that is they'll put some monitor speakers and point those back towards the ring, like a rock and roll band does, so you can hear the feedback or hear yourself, hear what's going on. And if you hear that crowd, it helps you make your decisions.
Right.
So anyway, there we were in the middle of a 8-man clusterfuck. And Vince's team lost the gig, counted 3, and it was time to shave his head. And so we did that.
I remember watching a lot of this.
We were just kind of going over
the
the brass tacks of the business, and then we're going to go back and have the event. And before we left, Vince says to Donald Trump, "Hey, Donald, one more thing." And I didn't even know about this, but I was watching it unfold. How you feel about taking a Stone Cold Stunner? And Donald kind of hesitates. The boy's handler's right there. And, Donald's worth, $1 billion, $2, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he's a straight-up business guy. And if he has any athletic skill, I know not of it. And his guys tell him, no, there's no reason you need to get any kind of physicality with this stuff. You have nothing to gain, blah, 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 blah. And he looks at Vince. He goes, sure, I'll take it. And I'll be damned. I sat there and I talked with Donald for about 2 minutes, just kind of give him the basic, here's how it goes. I think I might have demonstrated on somebody, not Donald. And the match happened. Comes time for the stunner. Bing, bang, boom. Ring up Donald Trump with the stunner. And it looked like shit. And he took it like shit. But I am a fan of Donald Trump because he didn't have to put himself in harm's way.
Yeah.
He did it for the show. He did it for me, and he did it for the wrestling fans that were there, 90,000, and I don't know, maybe 1 million or 2 watching. So I always give props to Donald Trump for doing business the way he did at WrestleMania. It was a stand-up thing to do. Donald, I know you don't listen to this crazy-ass show, but I got a lot of respect for you. I'll be back at the Trump Tower because I had a damn good time staying at your damn hotel over there.
Google Fi Wireless
dope.
has flexible phone.
It's cool little shit like
being
that.
able to
you hear
have
about.
something to always protect myself with this Byrna.
A lot of people just swash to the side with Trump.
We all good? Everyone ready? Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here today. I am Chad Bianco. I'm the Sheriff of Riverside County, and we are obviously here to talk about an incident that occurred yesterday at the rally that former President Trump had in Coachella. There has been a lot of media stir beginning last night with social media and further on today about the arrest, and so I am here to give you as much information as I can. I will answer all of the questions that you have. Keep in mind that the information that I'm going to give you may not be all of the information that I have, but because of what we're doing and because of the investigation that will obviously continue concerning this, there are some things that I cannot give you or that I will not give you, but I will do everything I can to answer your questions. So to begin with, yesterday afternoon, before former President Trump arrived to the rally, we made contact with an individual on the inner perimeter of our operation at the rally. As you can imagine, this was a very large event. in regard to previous attempts on the former president's life. This was not something that we were taking lightly. We had a very detailed plan in place on how we were going to keep not only the former president safe, but all of the participants or the attendees of the rally safe. So in general terms, I will tell you that we had a larger outside perimeter and then an inside perimeter that was completely controlled by us, by Riverside County Sheriff's deputies, and both of them served different purposes. We did not keep residents from their homes. We did not keep people that were traveling through the area from going through if they had a legitimate reason to go through. So the outside perimeter was basically to allow people in that we thought belonged there. The inside perimeter was to make sure and to make sure people were proceeding in the right direction. The way it worked yesterday is only people that were allowed inside the perimeter, the outside perimeter in a vehicle, was if you lived there or if you had documentation that said you were going to this rally
warm here
in the form of an email with VIP credentials or
but apparently
press
that's supposed
credentials.
to change this week.
Those vehicles were allowed in. There were no other vehicles allowed. So that outside perimeter are I will give you his name. The name that we have, and I'm going to put an asterisk by it as I explain this later, but we have his name as Vem, V-E-M, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, and his birth date is 10/26 of 1974. And the reason why I gave it to you like that is I will explain later. He approached the outside perimeter, gave all indications that he belonged there, that he was that he was a participant that was allowed to get into VIP and to and a press corps, and so he was allowed through that outer perimeter. As he got to the inside perimeter, where deputies were conducting obviously a more thorough evaluation of the vehicles that were coming in, there were many irregularities that popped up. The deputy noticed that the interior of the vehicle was in quite disarray. The vehicle had an obviously fake license plate, and that prompted further investigation from our deputy into why the person was there, and what he was doing.
Toes on this one.
During that investigation, the deputy eventually found multiple passports with multiple names, multiple driver's license with different names. The vehicle was unregistered, and the license plate was what we in law enforcement would recognize as one that is homemade and indicative of a group of individuals that claim to be sovereign citizens, and assuming the deputy assumes that he was part of that identifying group. So during the investigation, obviously those identification documents were found, in addition to a loaded handgun and a shotgun. Obviously, this was before the former president arrived. The person was taken into custody. He was eventually booked into jail on those charges, and eventually he was released. He will have to further his court case in the future. Right now, we are actively engaged in working with Secret Service and the FBI to ensure that this person is followed up on and all of the information that they can gather. I can tell you that from my perspective, from a state law enforcement agency's perspective, the firearms charges is
leave it
what
to fucking California,
arrested
dude, to
him for
release
and
the
booked
dude.
him on. Anything further will come from the federal government.
That's some bullshit.
Quite frankly, I don't know if we will be a part of that. We will certainly
Hey,
be a
what
part
up,
of
Dragon?
that investigation
How you
and
doing, man?
cooperating with them, but those charges, if any, will come from them. They will not come from us. With that being said, is there any questions?
Yeah, my question is, why the fuck does the guy get released? You know, that is my biggest question. Although, again, it's California. Look at all the crime they allow to go on there. Wow. I'm sorry, you get caught trying to do some shit like that, you should not be out of jail in less than 24 hours. That is some bullshit. See here. Oh, there's that one video that was actually pretty interesting. So has anybody heard about these CO2 pipelines? Or it was very interesting to hear about. I hadn't heard about them before, so hearing about it kind of blew my mind. There we go. Watch some of this here.
Specifically designed to transport
Vinny,
CO2.
what up, bro?
It's just all about power, control, all greedy, money.
Billions and billions of dollars.
There's 90,000 miles of CO2 pipeline projected for the United States.
You better get out of the way because it's going to knock you over.
And we know that there are ruptures and we know that there are leaks.
It's a mass failure of the pipeline.
They found them in their vehicles passed out and foaming at the mouth.
Iowa is ground zero for these projects.
We don't want you on our land.
They never tell us the truth.
It could kill you.
The question is, whose farm will it be?
Yeah, it's CO2.
And what friend will it be?
I think it's a good idea to pump CO2 to Wyoming to store it underground or some shit.
I want to say something to you as a lifelong committed environmentalist. One of the biggest boondoggles of the Biden-Harris administration is a program called Carbon Capture and Sequestration. It's advertised as a green project that will help with climate change, but it's far from green. In fact, it's dangerous, unhealthy, very expensive, and very bad for the environment. What it really does is to transfer wealth from working people to rich investors, costing taxpayers billions. This is exactly the kind of corrupt merger between government and industry that's ruining our country and destroying the middle class.
Yep.
It also discredits the environmental movement, which is not a good thing for anybody. Kamala Harris cast the deciding vote on this initiative, and she wants to build it nationwide.
Yeah, they're talking about running these pipelines like from almost every state.
My name's David Wiskus. I've farmed my whole life. It's satisfying to raising a crop and going through a drought or lots of rain. It's all in Mother Nature's hand. It's not me. I throw the seed out there and she takes over. And I have great respect for Mother Nature.
That's a radish?
I know. It's supposed to be, they call it a watermelon radish?
My name is Jessica Wiskus, and I'm from Lisbon, Iowa. I'm the daughter of David Wiskus.
See that corn? My corn's bigger than your corn.
Are we having
I
corn
received a
measuring
letter in the
contest now?
mail
Damn.
notifying me that our property was in the corridor of a proposed CO2 pipeline, and I was really interested in it when I received it because I had heard about the idea of carbon sequestration, and of course I knew that this was touted as one of the ways to battle climate change. And so I thought, wow, okay, it's coming right here in Iowa. Let's see what this is about.
The United States leads the world in corn production, much of it grown by Iowa farmers. Ethanol plants buy about half that corn, which they ferment to make ethanol fuel. The process emits carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas often blamed for warming the planet.
Summit Carbon Solutions approached us and said they were interested in building a carbon pipeline to potentially lower our carbon score and to make us a greener company.
We can capture that CO2, we can compress it, we can put it in a pipe to be able to safely store that permanently and improve the environment.
The pipeline companies plan to transport the CO2 through pipes under extremely high pressure 2,100 pounds per square inch.
Holy
At
shit.
that pressure, the CO2 will have the density of a liquid, but it'll move like a gas with less friction. Thousands of miles of pipeline will be buried under farms and private properties across the Midwest. The gas in that form is very, very corrosive, and the pipelines can easily be breached and rupture.
One night I got a phone call from a local farmer. Said, Steve, what the hell's going on with this CO2 pipeline?
Okay, so they're saying that this is to reduce greenhouse gases, right? The CO2 that's emitted. But we are giving the government control of CO2 gas that they could literally flood valleys with in cities. I mean, is that something that we want the government having control over? I mean, that's honestly more dangerous than a nuke. It's very concerning. I don't trust the government any which way.
They're wanting to put into Shelby County. And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, bullshit. He said, I see it's not running through your farm.
If you agree to execute an easement with us, you agree to a price, then we pay that 100% up front.
Normally a big project like this, they sit down with you and months, if not
If they have
years
an
in
easement, then
advance,
they can access your
learn
property
about your
anytime they want.
ordinances, concerns,
For
where
any
would be a
reason.
good place to go or not a good place to go. How can we work together? I don't know why this would have been any different, but I'm getting the feeling it was done purposely.
My dad called me and said he got a strange letter in the mail. Would I like to come up and read it? I read through it and I was really puzzled because it didn't sound like anything that would benefit me. And why would you want to pump a gas to North Dakota and bury it in the ground? It just seemed like a project to nowhere. So it didn't set with me right off the bat.
That's the weird part about it.
We have a legacy here on the farm, and
Exactly.
we really want to protect that legacy. And I like the way they assume that
is
you're going
big
to
fucking facts right there.
approve this, because there's a paragraph at the bottom of this page that says, we appreciate your involvement in this project. Our top priorities are to be transparent and to make sure we do the right thing for the landowners for the benefit of Iowa
That
agriculture.
word should scare you coming
We
from
believe
the
this
government.
project will positively impact farmer profitability and farmland values for decades to come. There's nothing in that paragraph I agree
Scariest thing in
with.
the world to hear is, hi, we're the government and we're here to help. You hear that, you run.
This man on the phone said, I am with such and such company, and we are here, and we're going to survey your land. My husband, Bill, and I own a farm in Northwest Iowa. Bill loved the farm. That was his first true love. But then
I really like
life kind of took a
RFK.
change, and he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Bill is now in the Iowa Veterans Home in Marshalltown. And the last thing he said to me is, please don't ever sell that farm. That farm has to go to our children. And I promised him that I never would.
Two companies, Summit and Wolf, want to buy 50-foot wide permanent easements on all farms in the path of their pipeline. That way they can dig trenches and bury their CO2 pipes. The companies also want to access additional land for construction and maintenance. They've pressured landowners to sign contracts to give them that land.
Your neighbor signed, you should sign too. Your neighbor thought it was a good idea, so it's gotta be a good idea. I think some landowners that signed did not read the easement.
No,
But the
they
thing of it
probably
is,
didn't.
once you sign the easement, you're in it up to your eyeballs. They have access to your property at any time, any day, 24 hours a day. And anyone they want to send to your property has access to your property.
Hell no.
This farm has been in our family for over 100 years. We're not even sure what size pipeline we have coming through. Okay, it's starting down there, close to where all that black dirt is, down by the tree. That's our wetlands. And it's coming diagonally all the way up through there, right down the middle, cutting the farm in half. So when Summit comes through anything that's on that side of the pipeline, we won't be able to get in and plant. Any landowner fighting this will tell you that they have sleepless nights.
Many farmers expressed indignation and grief about the destruction of some of America's prime agricultural production lands.
Land is a living, breathing thing. If you don't take care of it, it will die.
That is true.
There's microbes and biomes and
technically
creatures
we
that
don't
live
own
in that
anything.
soil.
Everything-
And once you disturb that fine chemical balance
We're told
that's
that
in
we
the
own it,
soil,
but-
it's never the same.
In reality,
You
we
really can
we
never
rent
get it
everything from the government.
back exactly like it was.
It won't produce the crop as it originally has produced. And we have the risk to human lives.
What happens if something goes wrong?
It's just a matter of time until it leaks somewhere.
I have attended almost a dozen of these public informational meetings, and they never tell us the truth. Oh, it's just like the CO2 in a can of pop. This is a famous thing that they have said. It is not true. It is not true at all.
Nope.
All we heard was boom,
Mississippi.
like an explosion. And just a big mushroom cloud just went in the air. And I called my mother. I said, Mama, this pipeline blew up. We on our way up there to get y'all. And we never made it.
Daughter, debris is on the floor right now. My friend, she's shaking. I don't know what's going on. My car stopped. It won't move.
When I heard that call, I took off that direction.
Yeah, 'cause, your car can't run with all the CO2 in the air. You can't breathe.
We're having
I mean,
citizens
it's-
report shortness of breath
instantly kills everything
and their
around.
vehicle stalling and not running in that area. At this point, I know that we've got to get responders to the area, but I don't have any idea what should be close to Satarsa that would be causing this.
I'm thinking by the time I get there, it's all gonna be on fire. Because I'm thinking that, it's natural gas or something like that.
One of my granddaughters fell out on the floor, and her face was just blood red. The more I went outside, the worse my breathing got. I got in my car, and it wouldn't start. It would crank and go dead, crank, go dead.
Started checking houses, and that's when I run across a couple, a man and a woman. But they weren't saying nothing. They just walking around holding a cell phone to their face. Said, hey, come get in the truck. There is no response from them. They just kept walking. It looked just like something you'd see in a zombie movie. It was so hard to breathe.
That's fucking scary.
We had gotten
with
word
carbon
that there were
dioxide,
3
too,
young
it-
men in a car. And I went back in started looking for
It
them.
settles close to the ground.
Unbeknownst to me, I was running into the worst part of it.
I'm hearing him going from totally coherent to less coherent, to where he's struggling and breathing and not making sense.
We were about 1,500 feet away from it. The car just shut off. It just shut off, just went dead. We didn't have time to open no doors or anything. And the next thing you know, we woke up at the hospital. Yeah, we were in there about 3 hours. We were foaming at the mouth. The first responder said if he'd got there about 3 minutes later, we'd have been dead.
Nobody knew about this CO2. I learned that your car can't run in it and you can't breathe in it.
After the investigation, it was determined the rupture was caused by a land shift in the area. There's 9 miles of pipe between this point right here where the actual rupture took place and the emergency shutoff valve was. After the rupture and after the valve was shut, it continued to bleed off for about 4 hours.
My lungs were difficult before the explosion.
Why do they have shut-off valves
I
that
did not
far
have
apart?
to be on oxygen. Like those tanks, after that, I've been on oxygen ever since.
Right after the explosion, I started suffering short-term memory loss, anxiety, like I'm having now. I can't focus. Like I said, I can't just focus on one thing. So I really don't deal with a lot of people.
That's so fucked up.
45 residents of the small town of Satasha, Mississippi were hospitalized the night the carbon dioxide pipe exploded. Unlike the CO2 in the air that we breathe, these pipelines are loaded with a highly pressurized form of carbon dioxide. It's an asphyxiant, and at concentrations as low as 10%, it's a suffocating poison. It can lead to convulsions, coma, and death. The company that built the pipeline, Denbury Gulf Coast, had never informed local emergency managers about how to respond to an explosion. Denbury officials later said that their computer models showed that a rupture posed no danger to nearby residents. It was later revealed that these computer models never included important factors like weather conditions and hilly landscapes.
The CO2's
So there's two
travel down in
ruptures that
the
we know
lowest
about.
areas.
So here's the levels of
Settle
stream.
out.
Right here is where the pipe goes
Yeah, it
under the
is.
road. Here's the fracture. So what happened here is you got a lot of rain and the ground moved. The ground moved so much that it pulled, it's basically putting a strain right here.
The pipe underneath the highway cannot move either up, down, sideways, or at all. So it's clamped there. So the rest of the pipe
That's
is
why I'm happy Trump
at mercy
has
of
picked
the soil that they put it in. So when it
Put the people
rained, it
around him
rained
he
excessively
has.
for 2 months. So that's completely saturated. It created a great amount of shear right at that weld, and that's when it popped. And it's going to be a big white plume because it's freezing all the water vapor that it touches.
Conditions that led to the pipeline rupture in Mississippi are all too common in Iowa.
Drone footage capturing the extent of the damage in northwest Iowa as entire neighborhoods are now underwater.
On our farm, Summit wants to go through wetlands and highly erodible land. A big rain, anything, you'll wonder, is this time that this pipeline is going to leak?
There's about 5,000 miles of CO2 pipeline currently in the United States. An alarming 62 accidents have been reported in a 10-year period. Most of those ruptures occurred in unpopulated regions like eastern New Mexico. Now the industry is planning close to 100,000 miles of CO2 pipelines. This is something that would never happen in a free market economy.
Oh,
It's
hell no.
only happening thanks to billions and even hundreds of billions of
come right
dollars
through where I
in tax
live,
credits
actually.
from the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act.
The Inflation Reduction Act is also the most significant investment ever in climate change. Ever.
That money is just a giant subsidy to the methane industry and to big ag. In Iowa and neighboring states, these new pipelines will run near farms and homes and schools.
CO2, when it ruptures, when it's released, it would move like a water vapor fog. How far will it drift? Where did the rupture happen? What was it, on a hill? Well, all the CO2, regardless of temperature and wind, will move down in the valley. The folks that are in valleys, even miles from a CO2 pipeline rupture, could be in trouble.
That's a horrible danger because it's only a quarter mile away. It's at a higher elevation than I'm at. And it would flow south through everyone else's property as well.
We gotta get our country back.
Even though there's
have to
clear
get our country
evidence that
back.
pipelines can
no
explode,
choice.
the pipeline companies have refused to provide residents with information on how to handle that kind of an emergency.
The companies themselves
Oh, you're
agreed
right.
that
It's gotten
safety
worse over
information
the
should
past
not be
20,
released
30
to the
years.
public, should not even be
My opinion,
released
it's
to
gotten even
emergency responders. when we brought this up. They cited, potential terrorist threats.
So how are your emergency response people supposed to respond to an incident if they don't know what will happen at the moment of the incident? And a lot of these cities and around here have volunteer fire departments. They are not prepared to deal with a CO2 incident.
Pipelines of this length, diameter, never built this close to cities, metropolis areas, never before of this magnitude. And the emergency response has to be massive. This is not something that they can even wrap their arms around. And they don't have any equipment at all.
And that's why I'm wondering, are they doing this intentionally in order to be able to have an accident, towards some of the larger cities and fucking kill everybody off? Trump, I feel he does care about the American people. I really do. Exactly. Take away your rights, take away everything. It's the shit that's going on here is absolutely batshit crazy. This is batshit crazy. I'm sorry, to me, there's no need for these pipelines. It's public safety hazard is what it is, and honestly, I feel it's a weapon that's going to get turned on the American people. I really do. I think that's Kamala and their plan was to turn, to build this shit and then to use it against us. It's a big gas chamber. Because they're the ones that started this. It's fucking wild.
What about all of us? Are you going to bring all of our self-contained breathing, our oxygen tanks? If we're stuck in our car? I mean, we're going to need to be pulled out of there and put in a mask right away.
And if there's a serious leak, the ambulance can get to the edge of the leak and then their engine stops. So, like, if I'm out in my field, I'm on my own.
Yep.
And there's too many what ifs, and the ramification is dead people. Dead people.
After hearing from hundreds of witnesses, most of them opposed to the pipeline,
they don't care, though.
The Iowa Utilities Board went ahead and approved the use of eminent domain for the project proposed by Summit Carbon Solutions.
The Iowa Board of Utilities gave Summit Carbon Solutions permission to build the project, including a plan to use eminent domain laws for the land.
The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States says the government cannot take your land without due process and just compensation. Under the eminent domain exception to that constitutional guarantee, the government can only take your land for a public purpose and never for profit by a private company.
Now, with that ruling, people are seeing, wow, they could take my land for anything.
About 78% of Iowa residents are opposed to using eminent domain to build CO2 pipelines, according to a survey by the Des Moines Register, the state's largest newspaper.
Private companies should not be allowed eminent domain, and somehow it got through. Everybody needs to be concerned because it's not just our land here. It can be land in California or New York or anywhere.
Well,
not just here that they'll take your property for whatever they want.
If eminent domain is used for private profit, then it becomes reduced to simply one individual looking out for their own profitability over the future of an entire community.
Please welcome Bobby Kennedy to the soapbox stage.
How much is it worth to the oil industry over a 12-year period? $173 billion in taxpayer subsidies. And this pipeline will never be built. Thank you all very much.
just the way this thing is molding together, it's
all about
looks like
money.
there's some under the table dealings or something going on.
All about money.
There's been a lot of conflict of interest in the government because Mr. Rastetter, that owns Summit Carbon Solutions, contributes hundreds of thousands of dollars to our governor and other legislators as well.
I'm really struggling with what we're doing as a country, spending trillions of dollars because CO2 is supposedly the devil. And if it is, after trillions of dollars and trillions more to come with 90-some thousand miles of pipeline, tell me what the benefit is going to be to the climate.
No benefit. None.
The CO2 captured by these pipelines is a tiny drop in the bucket compared to the CO2 emitted nationwide. Opponents of the projects believe that the pipelines have a hidden purpose. Those pipelines just happen to end at the Bakken crude oil fields in North Dakota and the oil fields in southern Illinois. So the CO2 can actually be used to push out every last drop of oil that is stranded in the oil fields. So the purpose claimed for the pipeline by its proponents is to reduce carbon emissions, but in reality, it could actually increase the amount of carbon emitted.
A whole hell of a lot.
Growing crops and nurturing the farm is something that you grow up with your entire life. And it's just part of you, it's just kind of in your soul. With the legacy that's part of this land, it's just natural to want to protect it.
I would like to say that we have worked really, really hard for our property, our land, and that it's our land. It's not your land. It's not your right to take what we have worked for. No. We want to leave it to our children with no easements, with no danger.
This is the most time-consuming fight I've ever had. I haven't gotten to spend the time with my grandchildren that I would like, but I'm doing it for them.
I think that if they put the project through Iowa, there'll be a cloud hanging over the state. And other states, when the project comes to their front door, will say, Iowa, why didn't you stop this?
This may be the way that the world works, but it's not going to work here because we are going to draw the line and we're going to say no.
I applaud the efforts of the people of Iowa who are fighting for the health and safety of their communities and their constitutional rights. Like many of us, they understand that we've been given an astonishing gift just living on planet Earth. They know that we need to honor and protect that gift. Battles that are being fought in Iowa today against the theft of public lands and agricultural lands by large industrial and financial interests is really a battle for the soul of our country. When we destroy nature, we diminish our capacity to sense the divine, to understand who God is, and therefore who all of us are as human beings and what our own capacity and potential is as human beings. And that's a sin not only against us, but against our children as well. Protecting the environment is a high priority for many of us on the Trump team, including President Trump. We agree that the most important environmental effort should focus on having clean air and water and healthy food and regenerated soils. If we're really concerned about climate change, the most important thing that we can do is to regenerate our soils. If we regenerate the soils in this country alone, it will push the net emissions of carbon back to the pre-industrial age. And Donald Trump and I are working for you in Washington. We'll put a stop to the deceptive schemes like this one. And we'll work to strengthen America's connection to the natural world.
That's why I'm all in on this shit. Because the food that we fucking are All of our food is poison. And yet we allow it because we can't figure out what the big words on the fucking boxes mean. They hide it behind all those fucking big ass words that the average person doesn't know. And they know that. And for me, this is something close to me. Because of the fucking food. Back in the 70s, it was very rare to come across a case of juvenile diabetes. Very rare. Now it's 1 in 3 kids have it. Including both of my sons. My youngest son, 14 years old, lost his life because of it. Me personally, I want to see all these big companies burn to the fucking ground. Their CEO stripped of their money that they made, knowing what they're doing to our children and us. The government agencies allowed it to happen. They intentionally get us sick as early as they can to make money off of us from the insurance, to make money off of us from all the pharmaceuticals they've shoved down our throats, to the hospital trips that we have to take. And inevitably, our whole life until we end up in the ground. And it's all intentional to keep us sick so they can make money off of us the entire time. Big revolving door. And then they take all of our money and they ship it overseas to like Ukraine, which Ukraine is just their money laundering. All that money is being laundered right back over here to us and into their pockets. That money's getting spent to buy more munitions, and well, guess who they come for? Munitions, they come here. Lockheed, Boeing, fucking the rest of them. And then they give us our money back that now goes into those companies, and inevitably